Hey folks, how you doing? Can you hear me above the sound of the sea? I'm going to do a bivvy camp on the beach tonight. So I'm doing a bit of beach combing just now, scouting about, trying to find some dry pieces of driftwood. I've got a wee stash over your shoulder there up on the point where I'm going to set up my bivvy. I've got some on the rock there. I've got to keep an eye on the stuff on the rock. Don't want it to get washed away by the waves. I think we're about 20 minutes away from high tide. So I think actually this is quite a comfortable spot here. Lovely view, good company. So I might just make my fire here. I'll set up my bivvy camp 100 metres or so away, just in behind you there, on an elevated point so that I can see out and enjoy the view. So it's tinder dry just now folks, so I have to be super careful with this fire. I need to keep it controlled and modest. Just enough for cooking on. The coastal grasses, especially the marram, is very, very dry. I don't want to set off a grass fire, so I'll be careful. Keep it tucked down in here. So please folks, if you're out and about camping, now that the lockdowns are being released, by all means enjoy the company of a fire if it's safe to do so, but keep it under control if you're camping in Scotland because the country's very, very dry. Just keeping an eye on these waves as we're chatting away there, make sure my driftwood doesn't drift away. Right, let's get to it. Let's get the bivvy set up while we're waiting on the tide rising to its highest point, which I'm guessing is just going to be a little bit further down the beach there, but we better wait and see just in case. I don't want a sneaker wave coming in and taking my fire away from me. Just going to set up here folks with a perfect spot and a lovely view. I'm using an old style thermarest tonight, folks, because there's a lot of spiny vegetation about here and I don't want to puncture one of my expensive new fancy ones. So these are pretty tough and they're easy to repair, and well, it served me well over many years. I wouldn't shed too many tears if I puncture it on the sea buckthorn. That's the thorny plant that's all around here. Hippophae rhamnoides, if you want the Latin name for it. Well folks, that's the tide on the turn. I think it's safe enough to get my fire going. Famous last words. I did have a glance at the tide times, but it was yesterday and I didn't really have time this morning when I was gathering together some gear, but I think I'm going to be okay. It looks like the tide has turned. Let's get a wee fire going. I need to run round and gather up all my wood, see if it's still there. Well, that was quite easy, folks. Just as I thought, everything's super dry. I'll have to be quite careful tonight. The fire's pretty hot, folks. I had to take a layer off. Having a simple dinner by the coast tonight, folks, with a bit of bannock, a vegetable curry and a cup of builder's tea. Liven the fire up a wee bit to keep me company, keep us company. Just sitting here chilling out, folks, enjoying the last of my bannock and another cup of tea. I put a couple of logs on the fire, so it's a wee bit smoky just now. Once the night wears on a little bit and these logs get going, I'll maybe tell you a wee story. That's not the best view I've given you there, folks. I feel a bit mean. I'm sitting looking out to sea and you're looking at that wee rocky outcrop behind me, but it's a wee bit breezy now and I'm trying to position the camera so I can tell you a wee story. I've got some logs on the fire, I've got some water on the go, I'll have another brew and we'll have a wee blather. So the story that I want to tell you, sorry I'm distracted, there's a couple of crows been hanging about all evening. They know that I've got some food here, so every time I've been going out and about setting up camera angles, I've always had to keep one eye over my shoulder to see what these crows are doing, to see if they're in robbing my camp here. Anyhow, yeah, what was I saying? I was going to tell you a wee story, so I'm going to tell you a story about a birthday. I was out in China with a great friend of mine, Major Bruce Hitchens, who at that time was a senior pipe major in the British Army, now retired. Well, when I say retired, he's retired from the army, but he's still working, he has his own business. And I got special dispensation to take Bruce on some of my expeditions with me. I did most of my travel solo, but some of the trips were, how do I put it, well, they were quite dangerous actually, I suppose, if I'm being absolutely honest with you. And maybe it was seen as a little bit of risk mitigation to have somebody else along. I'm just beginning to get troubled by the smoke here. So Bruce used to come out with me and we did a few fairly tough expeditions together. I think I'm going to change my seating position, folks, for this story. The wind's turned around, it was going that way earlier. I'm getting it in my face now. So Bruce and I were preparing for this expedition. We were living up at the station, and then the afternoon before we were due to head off to explore a glacial valley, we decided that we would go back down. There's a market town, a wee village actually. We decided that we would go down there, we'd have a night in the hotel, we'd get a shower and we'd get a proper meal. But actually I had an ulterior motive for taking Bruce down because I organised all the travel, so I had opportunity to glance at his passport and I noticed that on the morrow it was his birthday, so I thought we need to celebrate it, but I kept quiet about it. So we went down to the market town. We got checked into a nice hotel, we had a shower, and I'd left the Jeep up at the station, so I phoned a taxi. This lady met us down in the entrance hall of the hotel, and I asked her to take us into a nice restaurant. Anyway, I was chatting away to her, and I asked her, I said, is there any possibility that you could get a birthday cake for me? And she thought it was my birthday, but I explained, I said, no, it's his birthday in behind, but I'm keeping it a secret. He doesn't speak Chinese, so he doesn't know what we're talking about here. Anyway, this lady, who I'd never met before, just a taxi driver, that appeared kindly. So I gave her some money and arranged to meet her at the crack of dawn in the hotel the following day. So Bruce and I had a grand meal, and I bought all his favourite things without actually letting on that I knew it was his birthday. And then we wandered back up through the old town and out to the edge of the village, and we got back to our hotel. Then we had a dram for a nightcap, and I said to Bruce, I said, well, the business starts tomorrow, we better get an early night. That's the easy life over. So we did, and we reverted to our rooms and had a good sleep. But I was up at the crack of dawn downstairs, and I met this taxi driver lady, and she bought the most enormous cake that you could imagine, a big cream and sponge, and I don't know, all sorts of piping and frosting, or whatever you call that stuff that was on it. It was very heavily decorated, and it looked very fragile. So I was really pleased about it, but I had to scoot back up to my room. I had to haul everything out my rucksack, and then I put the cake in the top of the rucksack, and I didn't have very much room left in the rucksack after this ginormous cake was in. So I took my wee bivvy tent, I took the poles out of it, and I made a fence around this cake, put something over the top, and try and protect it. And because I needed all the gear with me, I had to tie most of it to the outside of my rucksack. Anyhow, down I went at the agreed rendezvous time. I met up with Bruce, and off we went, and he was just about, we had a Jeep that was taking us to the start point of our trek, and Bruce was throwing all the gear into the back of this Jeep, and I saw him grab my rucksack, and I just about rugby tackled him to the ground, and I said, no, be careful with that, mate. And so he gave me a kind of odd look, you know, it's basically a rucksack full of camping gear, what, you know, could possibly go wrong? He didn't know that there was a birthday cake on the top of it. So anyway, we went off and got to the start point of our great long expedition, and shouldered these rucksacks, and away up this really steep hill, and we climbed into a glacial valley, and then we followed this glacial valley for a long time, and I could see that Bruce was in need of a wee rest and a bit of sustenance, and lunchtime came and went, and I didn't stop because I was looking for a place where I could hide, if truth be told, so that I could get this cake out without him seeing it. Anyway, he never said anything, but I began to get these kind of odd looks, and he said, we're going to stop. No, we're going a wee bit further, and there I was walking up this glacial valley with all this stuff tied on the outside of my rucksack, and I was getting these queer looks from Bruce, and I was walking along, and it was jingle jangle jingle jangle jingle, and he was looking at me, and I could tell that he was beginning to get a bit hangry, a wee bit hungry and angry, but he's absolutely a sound character, so he never said anything. But the looks got a bit sharper and a bit longer, especially the jingle jangle bit. He obviously thought that he was out with some kind of rookie, despite the fact that by that time we had probably spent 15 years together exploring various parts of the Himalaya. Anyhow, we marched on, and then I found this kind of big rock outcrop, and I said to Bruce, this is absolutely perfect, let's stop here. So we did, and he got his lunch bag out, he got his gorp, the trail mix, the sort of stuff that you're eating on the hoof when you're marching along. I said to Bruce, I said, I need a comfort break, I'm just going to nip in behind that rock there. So I went away, but I took my rucksack with me, jingle jangle, and I'm getting these really odd looks by this time. So I went behind the rock, I got the cake out of the top of my rucksack and I rearranged it a bit and repaired any damage to the piping or icing or frosting or whatever you call it. And I had a huge bag full of candles, little birthday cake candles, and I got all them on the cake and I got them all lit. And then I came round from behind the rock singing happy birthday. Absolutely priceless. Bruce said, "Hey, where'd you get that?" And I said, there was a wee shop just round there. I said, I just picked it up, just coming back from my comfort break. So there you are. I know Bruce doesn't watch many of my videos, he's too busy, but if you happen to be watching this one, Bruce, he's in America just now. He's been in America for a long time with all the lockdowns and stuff. I hope you're safe and well, made your hitchings, and you look forward to sharing a hill or a bothy with you, hopefully in the not too distant future. So there you are, folks, a wee story. I'll see if I'm brave enough to put this in, but for now, it looks like my kettle's boiling, so I need to get a wee brew, sit here, relax, enjoy the fire, and then climb into that bivvy bag of mine. So morning, folks, how you doing? Oh, what a beautiful morning. It's pretty cold though. My bivvy is just up there, just up above me. I've brought the stove down here. There's a wee bit of a breeze up there. It's a bit more sheltered down here. So I'm going to get a cup of coffee on the go. I'm going to break camp and then I'm going to hike down the coast and meet Mo. So while this water's boiling, let's get up there and get to work. Get some of this gear packed away. Nothing beats that first cup of coffee in the morning, folks, especially sitting with a view like this. My wee bivvy tent is just above my head there. I've got some of my gear packed up. I'll pack up the rest of the gear and I'll get down the coast and see if Mo's got a few minutes to meet up with me. Maybe have another cup of coffee. She might even buy some Danish pastries on the way past the wee delicatessen. The village that we live only has one shop, but it's a nice shop. Well, folks, that's me all packed up. I'll just nip along to where I had my fire last night, make sure I haven't left anything, leave no trace and all that. Well, here we are, folks. This is where I had my wee fire and cook up last night. And I hope I don't sound like I'm lecturing here when I talk about the leave no trace ethos, which is hugely important for anybody that's enjoying the outdoors in the way that we do. So I know in all probability here I'm preaching to the converted, you guys all know this, but I think it's always worth reminding folk that it's a privilege to be able to wild camp and enjoy this, to wake up to this in the morning. And so we have a duty of care. We should at least leave the place in the way that we found it, if not a little better. So if there is any litter or rubbish lying around, then gather it up and take it away with you. Oh, another thing, actually, this is turning into a lecture, sorry about that folks. If you're having a fire directly on the beach, it's not enough just to cover it over with sand when you're finished, because the fire can superheat the particles of sand, and then if somebody walks over it, if it's on a beach, you know, it could be somebody in bare feet, or if an animal walks over it, they're going to get a really serious burn. So before you cover it over with sand, just douse it down with water, cool it down first, and then you can cover it over. Okay, lecture over folks, sorry about that. So I'm all packed up, I'm good to go. I'm going to hike down the coast and give Mo a call, see if she'll meet me at the bay, see if she'll pop into the wee shop and get some Danish pastries, we'll have a cup of coffee, enjoy a bit more of this glorious morning. But I'll wind the video up here folks, so as always I give you my thanks for your views and comments and for the thumbs up that I get. It's very, very much appreciated. And I think from what I'm detecting on the news that we're going to be good to go a little bit further afield in the very near future. So stay tuned folks for more adventures in Scotland, and hopefully you'll see a little bit more of the country in the coming weeks and months. So thanks again folks, and bye for now.